Blog Talk Radio.
Hi there, and thanks for joining us once again. This is Living with Love with Course in Miracles. We are a study group that's in Durham region in Southern Ontario, and we decided to bring our voices out into the world, and we're hoping that you're enjoying listening to us. So once again, my name is Sarah, and I have Matthew with me again on the line, and we're going to be discussing life choices and how living life with a purpose is the greatest way to find joy in your life. Because by serving the world and God, you'll come to know your path on this earth, and that way everyone benefits. One thing that has really touched Matthew and my life is reading The Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard. And there are two books following that, but we like to talk about The Disappearance of the Universe because, as some people call it, it's like a can opener to understanding the Course. The two great teachers, Arten and Persa, who appeared to Gary, have really shed a lot of light on it. And so now as we're talking about this, I'm sure Matthew has allowed, as I have, the Holy Spirit into our conversation today. So Matthew, what's on your mind as I'm speaking now?
Yeah, so I've been kind of reviewing The Disappearance of the Universe the past few days, past week maybe, but I was reading it last night, and this wonderful passage from the book I read describing the character of Jesus, and I just love to read it and to share it with everyone because I think it really paints a picture for what we're all trying to achieve in being a teacher of God. And ultimately, that's where we arrive through studying the Course and doing the workbook and, demonstrating all that we learn from the Course. We, become a teacher of God. And I'll just read these 3 paragraphs. They're from chapter 2 in the book, which I think is called The J Underground. And it's the longest chapter in the book because it provides a lot of in-depth information about the who Jesus was, what he taught, and so much more than that, which I guess read the chapter to find it all out. But I'll just read these 3 paragraphs, and so it's Persa describing Jesus, or Jay as he's referred to in the book. He never cursed a tree and killed it, never got angry and knocked over the tables in the temple, but he did heal a few people who were already dead. Also, his body died on the cross, but he did not suffer as you would imagine. As for his way of being, mere words cannot do him justice. To be in his presence was an experience so unique it gave you a feeling of wonder. His peace and unalterable love were so total that sometimes people couldn't stand it and they had to look away. His attitude was so calm and sure it made you want to know how he did it. Those of us who spent a lot of time with him, and as in my case, Thomas's case, got to speak with him in private, were inspired by his complete faith in God. One of the ironic things, and this is something people don't understand, was that he considered himself to be totally dependent on God. Yet this dependence was not weakness, as the world usually views dependence. Rather, the result was a state of unbelievable psychological strength. Things that would scare the stuffing out of strong people meant nothing to him, because they were nothing to him. Fear was not a part of him. His attitude was the same as if you were having a dream last night, asleep in your bed, except you were totally aware of the fact that you were dreaming. And because you knew you were dreaming, you also knew that absolutely nothing in the dream could possibly hurt you, because none of it was true. You realized you were merely observing symbolic images, including people who weren't really there. Jay used to tell me when we were alone that the world was just an insignificant dream. But most people weren't ready to accept such an idea because their contrary experience was so strong. He then stressed that knowing the world is an illusion is not enough. The Gnostics and some early Christians called the world a dream, and the Hindus and Buddhists referred to it this way, all meaning pretty much the same thing. But if you don't know the purpose of the dream and how to reinterpret the images you are seeing, then the general teaching that the world is an illusion is of very limited value. However, he also said that the time would come when the Holy Spirit would teach people all things, and that everyone would know only God is real. Sometimes at the end of a conversation with me, he would just say, "God is," and walk away. And finally, one of the other things about Jesus that's rarely mentioned is that he had an excellent sense of humor. He was quite irreverent, and he liked to laugh and bring out the joy in others. And I think the reason for describing, it's not so much even the character of a particular individual, it's just a way of being. And I think these few paragraphs just paint a wonderful outline as to what we can all aspire to being in our interactions with any person or circumstance or situation. And we can always trace it back to that tiny mad idea in the Course. It's described as being, the separation from God is the tiny mad idea where for a mere instant, the Son of God remembered not to laugh. And if we can just remember to laugh in all instances where a perceived grievance or suffering comes to the forefront of our perception, then, we are essentially becoming the embodiment of Christ or the embodiment of the Holy Spirit. And we would radiate that to all minds that surround us and lift them all into heights of majesty where we would join as one.
Yeah, you know what? I think this whole thing is really wonderful, everything that you've said. And it's interesting because I found that the last two shows that we did, you hear my little dog who's on guard.
Mm-hmm.
But, come here, Spike. Shh, it's okay. He always makes me laugh, so that's a good thing. But it's interesting because whenever I've done the past two shows with you, I find that I have these thoughts go through my head because you're bringing up these points that are just so wonderful. And then because I'm listening so intently, I forget it by the time, there's a pause and it's time for me to open my mouth and say something. So what I did today was I took a little notepad and I've been making notes here. And, I think I love the name Jay Underground. Just got to say that. I think that's just so awesome. And I think what you said, too, about how, they're describing who he is as a person and how to be, and not to forget to laugh, because that did come up, a few times, right? So, I think that's wonderful. And then also, too, what I got here down was the purpose of the dream. And so the purpose of the dream is just not to forget to laugh. Is the biggest thing, or is there something else? What am I missing? Elaborate, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just read it here because I've got it right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's from chapter 27 in the Course, section 8, paragraph 6. I'll just read it. Let us
Cool.
return the dream he gave away unto the dreamer, who perceives the dream as separate from himself and done to him. Into eternity, where all was one, there crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. In his forgetting did the thought become a serious idea, and possible of both accomplishment and real effects. Together we can laugh them both away, and understand that time cannot intrude upon eternity. It is a joke to think that time can come to circumvent eternity, which means there is no time.
You know what's interesting? The thing that I just wrote down now as you're talking is everyone's been so serious, and I think back to all the ways that there's so many generations of the children have to be seen and not heard, and they, as soon as they teach you how to talk, then they're trying to quiet you down, and like be perfect and hide your flaws and don't let stuff out, and all those things don't allow you to laugh, and so I just think it's interesting how as soon as you're able to be yourself, which is the part that says, when you said somebody would simply say God is, which reminds me of I am that I am, and when we are able to realize that we are, then it's so much easier to laugh. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah, because then you're no longer taking anything seriously, right? I mean, it's really easy to get caught up in the world. There's something particularly unique about the Course, of course, and about this book, The Disappearance of the Universe. I mean, when I read it, I really, can feel in the core of my, being this essence of putting complete dependence on the Holy Spirit. And, I got to say, I read it, for the first time 5 years ago. And since that time, I've done a lot of other self-development kind of work, and I've looked at other sort of spiritual studies, and nothing even comes close to giving me the peace of mind that this book does. And, I think everyone has to go through their own experiences and forgiveness lessons, and, ultimately we all arrive at the same destination, which is, remembering that all we are is the embodiment of Christ, or all we are is the Christ mind, or all we are is in heaven at home with God, and there is no separation. And I feel like I've kind of traveled that journey in the last 5 years, is that the first spiritual study that I ever came across, officially was A Course in Miracles, and then, I studied other things. I never put the Course aside. I always continued to study it. But now it seems like I'm reading this book again, and I'm like being brought back to it. And it's such a wonderful feeling. It feels like I'm returning home. And that's really, when we talk to other people about their experience with the Course as well, it seems like it's a prevalent experience with people that, really are devoted to studying it and, really kind of get it. It feels like they're returning home. What's your thoughts on that, Sarah?
Well, what I think, Matthew, is really interesting is so many people who pick up the Course in Miracles, they buy it because they're attracted to it. There's something intuitive that happens. The Course finds people. That's the way it goes. But then a lot of people end up putting it on a shelf for, who knows, 5 to 20 years, or who knows how long. Sometimes it could be less than that. But the need always comes up again where they will go and pick it up again. And I thought it was interesting, too, when, I was like, again, I said I'm keeping notes here. So how we all have to find that time that's right for us and get there on our own. But one thing I've found, which has really been a beautiful experience, is I know that I have to get there on my own, and it's my own lesson, and it is unique, as is everyone else's. But the beauty of it is when you come to a certain level of understanding, and then you're able to verbalize it or verbate it, then there's other people that look at you with that smile and that knowing and say, you're here now. You've reached a place where I have that not everybody has, and I welcome you. Like I've had it a few times where people will, they'll look at me just maybe, I'm only in my early 40s, so maybe I don't, I'm not as full of wisdom as, someone who's older than myself, but I got here in my own time, and it's really nice when all of a sudden, these people who you would think are really awesome people, and the reason that you would find them to be so awesome is because they're exhibiting all those characteristics that we would see that were described about how Jesus was. They laugh, they know how to relax, they're peaceful, they don't worry about what other people think, so forth. So it's kind of like, to me, it feels like once we get to that understanding, then we can look at the next people as they come along on their journey, and when they get to a certain level of awareness, and it's almost as though we are welcoming them home. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. That's a great point. I think as as our awareness expands and we more and more invite the Holy Spirit into our lives, we begin to see that in others more and more. And, we may see it in a stranger from day to day or someone that we just have a brief word with, but our core relationships also begin to reflect that. The people that we spend more and more time with, we can, have that holy encounter on an ongoing basis with, and we can begin to develop that, what the Course describes as a holy relationship. And really that is seeing the Christ in each other and bringing out the joy in one another. And certainly when people are joined in a like-minded purpose and, have the same intention in learning and, ultimately forgiving and healing, then all these characteristics that Jesus, possessed and that he teaches us in the Course, you can even specifically look at those 10 characteristics of a teacher of God in Chapter 4 of the Teacher's Manual. We begin to exhibit those and demonstrate those and practice them, and we begin to invite people into our lives that have those same characteristics, and it makes for one wonderful experience.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I would also now encourage anyone who's listening, who's studying the Course on their own, go on to meetup.com and look for groups in your area. There are groups in every country in the world happening right now. I think last time I checked, there was over 2,000 Course in Miracles study groups, and it is going to be a really big benefit to you to go and meet up with the people who are also studying the same thing as you, because your level of understanding and your level of awareness, and even your level of, you think you understand something, but you're not quite sure, and then you go to a meeting and then somebody, expands upon something in a way that, maybe you hadn't before, or maybe a way that totally validates what you've been thinking. So, meetup groups are really phenomenal. And also, too, I think it's out of the Course. My mind is like a sieve with a lot of things, so this is where Matthew comes into play. It's like, okay, so which one was this out of? But we cannot heal on our own. We always have to take someone with us. And I think that's a really important point as well. And how do you feel about that? And it's in the Course, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. What's, when the Course describes that we can't, heal on our own, what it's referring to is not taking people with us. It's about joining minds with the Holy Spirit. And the form that takes could be in a group with others, or it could be in, perceived, not isolation, but a person could do it on their own, right? As a body, because the idea is that you're joining with the Holy Spirit. You're not depending upon others. But of course, a great way to facilitate understanding and learning and joining in a common purpose, here in the level of form is to, join with like-minded people who are studying the course. And it can be of great benefit if a person feels inspired to do such a thing. But, if they feel comfortable just learning it at their own pace, in their own time, and are, not yet ready to study it with others, then that's perfectly acceptable as well, right? There's no real formula in terms of how we do things in the world. The only real formula is just remember God or remember the Holy Spirit, and He'll meet you wherever you are, and He'll provide that inspiration that whatever's required in the given moment of your life.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because for me, I was one of those, I picked up the course about 10 years ago, and I think I got about 80 or 100 pages in, and I did, probably about, I'm going to say about 75, daily lessons, and those were really big. Like even just to do the first 3 lessons, what I see, everything I see in this room is not real, about, 3 lessons along those lines. That was life-changing at the time because things weren't real, because if I can see them, how can they not be real? But, and then I put it down and, and then I'd see it again on the bookshelf and I'd pick it up again. And then I got really into it again back in January. So, I guess that's about 10 months ago now. And I'm on, I think, lesson 270 or 80 or something like that. 270s. And I really enjoy doing that every day. But I have to say I'm a social person, and meeting with others who have studied or had the desire to study it, the friendships that have formed, like meeting you, Matthew. I never would have met you had it not been for the course. I look at, a bunch of different people, and, I'm very grateful for meeting the like minds. And the funny thing that I was thinking when you're saying about doing it solitary, we can't forget to laugh. And what crossed my mind, because sometimes I can be silly, is, imagine the poor soul who finds the piece of, joining with the Holy Spirit on his own and, is laughing and chatting away to himself, right? Just imagine how interesting he's going to look to everybody else, right? So I think, and strength is in numbers, right? So, even if somebody wants to reach out online or, call in and talk to us here, we would, I'm open to having a conversation or, talking with other people as well. So I just, that's what I got when you were talking. So I had to share.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, totally right. If someone feels inspired to join us here on the show, that'd be awesome. And same thing goes with anything. Also, a key point is always to be normal, right? So, for one that's identified with the Holy Spirit, they're not necessarily going to be laughing and talking to themselves inappropriately in public. That's certainly not what I'm suggesting, right? But people just move at their own pace. There's never any pressure. We were kind of talking about the idea of the script and the way the Course describes the script of, the moment that the idea of separation appeared to occur, it was also healed, or it appeared to disappear, I guess, if that makes sense. And so the idea is that, our success is inevitable with this Course. We've already returned to heaven. In fact, we never really left. And, that's one of the key teachings in it is that awakening that we're not actually here. The world is an illusion, but like we just described, in the opening few paragraphs, that understanding alone isn't enough to bring us back home. But it is very important to understand that we've never left God, and I think Disappearance of the Universe does such an amazing job of reinforcing that. I mean, like I feel it as I read the book, and I'm just gonna. My eyes glance to this other paragraph here from chapter 27. So we're on the 5-minute mark. So I'll just read this, and then we can reflect on it and close up. It's again from section 8, paragraph 12. Bring then all forms of suffering to him who knows that everyone is like the rest. He sees no differences where none exist, and he will teach you how each one is caused. None has a different cause from all the rest, and all of them are easily undone by but a single lesson truly learned. Salvation is a secret you have kept but from yourself. The universe proclaims it so. Yet to its witnesses you pay no heed at all, for they attest the thing you do not want to know. They seem to keep it secret from you, yet you need but learn you chose but not to listen, not to see. And you know, I think this paragraph here does a wonderful interpretation of offering the idea that although the world is an illusion, the Holy Spirit makes it our classroom, in that it enables us to reawaken to God and return home to heaven, and puts us in a place of cause rather than effect, and allows us to realize that we are not the dreamer of the dream, but we are the dream itself. You know, we dreamt up the entire world. We dreamt up the entire universe. And that's a challenging concept for people to grasp at the beginning, but the more and more you reinforce that idea is that, I'm not a body, I am free, I am still as God created me, and I'm simply dreaming a dream of separation, and it's never occurred. That's really what brings us home. And if we can remember that in all situations and circumstances, that is salvation, that is forgiveness. And the more and more that we practice that, it eventually becomes automatic. And like I said, our success in returning to home, in returning to heaven, in returning to God is inevitable.
Well, and it is inevitable, and it's this thought just keeps coming into my mind, which is about forgiveness and love are not things we need learn. They're simply things that we've forgotten, and if we just open our mind and clear the blocks, they're things that will come so easily to us.
Yeah. Well, that's the mandate of the Course found in the introduction, right, is that, we can't truly learn what love is because that is beyond our ability to learn, but what the Holy Spirit provides for us is the ability to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And then from removing the blocks, we become what we truly are.
Yeah, that's so awesome too. Just because even, how much comfort you can get when you truly believe that, when you actually, it's not just a theory and it's not just something someone said, or, it's when you actually feel it. There's just so much peace that comes from knowing that. So, and I really, really, really love Disappearance of the Universe. I think, okay. Do you have a final 30-second thing to say, or?
Yeah, just stay inspired, right? You have to follow whatever your inner teacher provides for you. And, if it inspires you to read a book like The Disappearance of the Universe, then you should follow that inner guidance.
Yeah. And I looked at the title on the computer screen now, How to Live on Purpose. So really, to wrap it up for myself, at any second she's going to say 30 seconds, is just to be yourself, to remember that you are love and that you are loved. You always have been. And forgiveness is, 10. And forgiveness is yours. Thank you for listening, and until next time, bye for now. Wow.